Let's just go over some basics. When somebody's been through a narcissistic relationship, what are some of the emotional or psychological challenges they're left with?
Okay, so if it's okay, I want to set a foundation of like what is a narcissistic
Yeah.
relationship, but just for your listeners, I want to share my bias, which is this is from a psychodynamic perspective, okay? So, from a psychodynamic perspective, a narcissistic relationship primarily exists in what we call an illusion. That's the illusion of togetherness. That's what we call a blissful union, or some people call it codependency. Some other people call it a shared unconscious fantasy. But primarily, if it's really a narcissistic relationship, it's about two people coming together to finally feel like they've been seen, that they've been validated, that they're recognized, that they're being held, all the things that typically go missing earlier in life, things that they missed out on that they're looking to fix in their current relationship. So that's sort of the foundation. But let me just pause just for a moment to see, does that even make sense, or is there anything more that I could say about just what is this kind of relationship?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the explanation and the way you tethered it to some other things. How you, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but how you initially kind of recognize or come to the realization that like maybe you're using a present relationship to meet past needs.
Okay, so one thing that you'll typically see in these relationships, which is like a red flag, is an intense level of togetherness. In other words, each partner has a hard time letting the other partner exist in their own right. So I don't mean just literal separations, which by the way are always painfully difficult. He wants to go out with his friends, she wants to go on a trip with the girls. There's usually a fight around that because togetherness, and not just togetherness, but everything has to be great. Everybody has to always be happy. Why do we have to talk about negative things? Can't you just be more positive? These are all things that one imagines should occur in a relationship, but this is not what makes up a healthy relationship. Togetherness and time alone, one opinion is okay. If the other opinion is different, these are all signs of a very healthy relationship. So those are the red flags. And I mean, there are many more, but the glaring red flag is problems around separation and letting the other person exist in their own right as a separate person with their own opinion. That's different than yours. That's the key. If they can't have their own opinion, if it's the same as yours, because then that's the blissful togetherness again.
Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was clarifying. In that relationship, there is this like blissful togetherness. Everything seems great. But then engaging outside of that relationship with other people, there's some friction, right?
Yeah, because once you're doing something outside the relationship, again, if there are narcissistic disturbances, it's not just like a separation, but it's often experienced as an abandonment. Like you left me or you rejected me. And for the narcissist or someone who has these characteristics, that's too painfully difficult to tolerate. And that's why there's often a fight around somebody doing something that's different or having a hobby that's separate from. So, yeah. So having a life outside is difficult for another reason as well, which is if you go out and you have fun, what does that mean? What does that say about me? Am I no longer valuable? In other words, I thought I was the most important person. It's like someone who, let's say, has a family and there are a couple of kids and they need to go away on a business meeting and they start getting anxious about leaving for their business meeting. And I explore that with them because part of what I do in my work with these individuals is I get really close as possible to their subjective experience. And I start to explore this. And what I discover is, what if I go away and everybody's fine, the family's fine, and they function without me and they have a good time? See, that means I'm not really that important. I'm kind of irrelevant in the family. And for the person who has these narcissistic traits, they need to feel like the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's powerful.